In this podcast, we chat about the win against Peterborough, give our praise and place nominations. We look ahead to Fulham and we chat to Anne from Fulham Back podcast. And of course, we answer your podcast questions. This is the Boro Breakdown podcast, and this is our Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod.
Wants support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble!
Ravanelli coming alive again. Janino wants the ball played to him. Ravanelli spots out Emerson!
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast with Johnny, Dana and Tom. We are the Boro podcast that gives you all of your Boro Matchday Chatter in a podcast. And well, this week Boro thumped Peterborough 4-0 and moved into the playoff places with and now they're on 62 points from 38 games. The 4-0 win was the first time Boro scored 4 goals away from home since Birmingham in 19th of December 2020 under Neil Warnock. Guys, to celebrate Middlesbrough scoring 4 goals, I want to ask you how you're feeling in 4 words. Dana, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to go for 4 actual words this week. Professional, wise, balanced, and dignified. A bit of poetry going on there, I think.
Hey, yeah, I tell you what, that's some good words.
Got flow to it, that.
Yeah, really good words. I mean, do you want to elaborate a little bit more, or are you happy to stick with those 4?
Yeah, I'll elaborate. I think professional because, going into this game, it was a potential banana skin. We did not slip up on an afternoon that a few of our playoff rivals did. Wise because I think that we implemented a game plan that worked, and I think we were just clinical in the moments that we needed to be in the second half more so than the first half. I mean, we'll get on to that. Balance because I thought we had the balance between the left and the right, which is something that we haven't really seen. We've seen maybe snippets of it, teasers of it, but I think we saw it more so yesterday. And then dignified because I thought we were just well worth that victory.
Oh, yeah, very good. An elaboration as well. Tom, how are you feeling in 4 words?
Absolutely bloody brilliant, Johnny. You got to love a big win like that, especially away from home. Watching the game yesterday after we went 1-0 up, I mean, they really weren't great. And I found myself thinking, like, how good would it be if we could just, like, really kind of batter a team and get quite a few goals, which we obviously don't see a lot. And we haven't seen a lot in recent years either. And then just to go on and do that away from home, that's going to be a hell of a confidence builder and a great way to kick off the running.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's huge to get a massive win like that, especially with the amount of fixtures we got going in the next few weeks. And I think I'm going to go with a nearly combusted Jeff. I've just never seen. Obviously Balogun scoring was great. Tav scoring as well for you, Dana. Coburn, what more? I think it was a really good performance at times, and I think it was a mixture of probably good and bad from both sides. But yeah, I think overall, really good display, really good performance to put your marker down for the remainder of the season, and hopefully we can build on it this week with the games that we got coming up. But let's talk about Saturday's game then, and obviously goals from Tav, Balogun, Coburn and Watmore were enough for Boro to claim the 3 points at the Western Home Stadium. We did make one change to the side with Bowler coming in for Neil Taylor. Tom, you said that wing-back role would probably suit Mark Bowler to a T if he was fit, but obviously the last couple of performances he's been struggling slightly. But was yesterday a bit more like it from him?
Yeah, definitely. Going into that game when the team was announced, I just thought I really hope this international break's been used to bring him up to speed a little bit more, and he can hit the ground running during that performance, and I think he absolutely did. It was such a difference to what we've seen from them the last couple of games, where he's not been fully caught up yet, and as much as Neil Taylor's done an absolutely solid job while Bowler's been out, we know he doesn't have the same kind of attacking talents as Bowler does. So seeing that from Bowler, I think it made the left side just a lot stronger yesterday between him and Tav in particular as well.
Yeah, and I think with that as well, there was a nice little stat from the game as well. With when you looked at Middlesbrough's percentage of play yesterday. So obviously, when you're looking at the thirds of the game, so the left, right, and the middle as well, Boro are always slightly more, normally much more dominant on that right hand side with Isaiah Jones. But yesterday we did see this changed ever so slightly. The average positions was Bowler was pretty much the same position on the opposite side of the pitch to Jones in terms of the advanced play. But then also 42% on the right hand side and then 37% on the left hand side. So is this more of the balance that you're like wanting to see now within this team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably the last month or so, maybe the last month or two, we've really kind of been predictable on that right hand side. Teams have tried to double and triple up on Jones at times, and knowing that we're not going to attack as much down the left. I think yesterday did show a lot more balance. As I said, Bowler and Tav in particular were doing extremely well. Some of the balls Tav was putting it in behind to kind of thread through the defence for ball that run on it were fantastic. And I'd even kind of Luke Balogun into that as well, because I think he was doing the same thing on the left hand side, and it really shows the advantages of having a left-footed striker in that role. It looks like obviously it's early days, but if we can kind of recreate the chemistry that Dykesdale, Crooks, and Jones have on the right hand side with Tav, Bowler, Balogun, and even McNair at times, because he was kind of really getting up there. Then that's only going to benefit us for the running if we can be a bit more balanced and have a threat on that left hand side as well as the right, which I think we saw a lot of yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's have a look at the overall performance and then dissect the game from top to bottom. And Dana, I just want to ask you the simple question: how would you assess the performance yesterday? Because I'm assuming it'd be quite positive.
Yeah, I think we've alluded to it a bit already. It's a strange game or a funny game to analyse, because I found myself getting caught between two opinions. One, that Boro were good, and two, that Peterborough were god awful. And I think both statements are true. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I don't really want to go overboard on praise for Boro, because it's easy to look at a final scoreline and think, wow, we were excellent. I don't think we were, but we didn't need to be. We just needed to be good and do the job, and we did that. And we were good in the moments that mattered. First half, I think it was there was a tinge of disappointment, a slight stain of disappointment that we didn't add to the lead that we had, because we had a few openings, maybe not so much chances, but openings to create more, and we just didn't execute them quite well. But second half, I mean, we turned it up, I think, and we were gifted a couple of chances, and we took them, and that's really what you need. And yeah, it was a Peterborough side that are the worst team in the division. I think they've shipped the most goals. They've scored the fewest. But it was a test. It was a mental test, because we've afforded the team maybe not so much the excuse, but the reason of maybe a dip in performances prior to the international break of mental and physical fatigue. Johnny Howson confirmed as much before the game in the build up to it. So it would have been really disappointing had Boro played yesterday with that tiredness and with that sort of leggy value to their performance. So it's good that we didn't, and that we upped the energy, I think. So that was a big plus as well.
Yeah, so would you say that was kind of the main difference then throughout the game, and that's how we got the better of this Peterborough side? It was just more of a case of we looked a bit more refreshed. Yeah, we had that balance on the left-hand side, but then also we were able to put the chance away when it mattered.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Matt Crooks, I think, has probably been one of those players that prior to the international break, I know he had a 2-game rest, shall we say, when he got that suspension for picking up, 10 yellow cards. But he was probably one that you look at and think, yeah, he's looking a little bit leggy here. I don't think he did yesterday. He played a big part in that fourth goal. He was harassing the midfield, basically allowed Duncan Watmore to sneak in, steal the ball, and then accelerate. It was a fantastic finish from Watmore for that fourth goal. And I think that was it, really. Yeah. And Peterborough were, let's be honest, they could not keep the ball for love nor money. Their ball retention was incredibly poor. They kept giving us the ball in their own third as well. So it was one of those where, okay, yes, we might have got sort of little gifts throughout the match from Peterborough, but we had to take them. And I think we did, particularly in the second half.
Let's go back to the first half slightly then, because Tom, when it was 1-0, We were creating a lot of chances. Dana alluded to it as well. And although we won 4-0 yesterday, it probably should have been more than 4. Definitely, don't you think?
Yeah, there's a couple of chances from the first half that come to mind for that. The one where Connolly kind of chased down a lost cause from a Joe Lumley clearance, won the ball, got around the keeper. At first, I was thinking that might have been a penalty, but looking back on replays, I don't think it was. But then ball falls Balogun and cleared off the line. There was another one where Crooks found himself in a shooting position right on the edge of the box. Personally, I think he should have given that to Jones to put in one of his kind of patterns, low crosses into the mixer and hope to get someone on the whip. But I can see why he took the shot there. A lot of appeals for handball afterwards, but again, I don't think that was too much either. But we were creating chances in the first half. I was a bit disappointed to only go in 1-0 up at half time. But obviously, as Dana said there, we really turned on in the second half and got the goals that we deserved from that. But really, I think it was by half time we should have been more than 1 up for sure.
Yeah, well, Wilder said that apart from he fucking loves Paddy McNair, he did say that things were sloppy in that first half, and it could have been 1-1 at half time. Appreciate there was a couple of chances. Obviously the slide tackle from Lumley, which nearly, the ball went over the top and Paddy McNair had to get off the line. But do you think it's a case of him having really high standards, or is it just a case of it actually Boro were sloppy at times in that first half?
I think it was the case that we were a little bit sloppy in the first half. I don't think it's so much high standards, but you mentioned there the Lumley slide tackle. I mean, looking back on it, he probably did the right thing in coming out, as much as it gave everyone palpitations. In coming out to do that slide tackle, bad slide tackle because it just went straight one of their players. But that whole situation comes because Dijksteel's pushed that far up the pitch that there's just no one covering that right hand side, and it was kind of really forced. And then luckily we had McNair there to clear. I mean, I'm very surprised that Marriott managed to get that on target with his weak foot from such a distance out as well. Like, I mean, fair play to him for that. But I think there were just times in the first half where we were maybe getting a little bit carried away. And leaving these gaps, which another team might have exploited.
Yeah, I think Joel Lumley probably just needed a broomstick yesterday because he was trying to sweep up that much. But it did give me heart palpitations for the majority of that game. But we'll come on to that a little bit later on. But the bit of quality that we see in the first half, Dana, and I'm surprised you made it on the podcast this week. So I thought you were going to combust out of joy. To the Marcus Tavernier. It's a lovely, lovely goal, isn't it? And what a way to start adding to his tally.
Yeah, did he mean that? Because honestly, when I saw the replay, I was like, he's just trying to help that back into a dangerous area because it comes from does it come from a corner or a free kick? It comes in, the ball comes in, it gets headed out to McNair. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's a great setup from McNair. He just basically allows Tav to whip that in, and it's a good goal. Let me not sugarcoat it or anything. It's a really good goal, but did he mean that? I know he said after the game that he's been practicing, but I think he's bluffing there. I don't think he meant that. But if he did, then fair play. It was one hell of a strike. The whip that he gets on it evades the keeper, it evades the defense. It's just a fantastic goal, and yeah, really good from Tav. It's what he's needed, really, isn't it? He's got all of the core attributes of being a good player. He just needs to get the goals and assists because that's for a lot of people what makes a player, what they judge a player off. And it's good that he's getting those goal contributions now.
Yeah, like you were saying there, like it's good for him to add that tally. I think a lot of if you look at the top level metrics, I think what a lot of players are pretty much held account to. He's definitely he struggles sometimes at the department, but I think it's really, really good now that he's fans are really starting to see the quality that he brings from this side and how much he means to this team. And I think the goal yesterday, that whipping and that whip he gets from it is absolutely superb. And I don't now that you've said that, then I'm kind of like, is it maybe a cross? But I think whatever it is, if it was a cross, it's a superb cross. If it's a shot, it's a superb shot. So like, I don't think you can really like complain about any of it, can you? But I was just so
Cross comes
happy.
shot category.
Cross court shot, yeah, exactly. Um, but it's let's move to the other couple of goals then, because obviously the Balogun one was it's a lovely ball in from Howson, a mistake from the defender, and Balogun just slots it away, and I nearly combusted because I absolutely of my love for Balogun since he's came in. And then we talk about the subs. So Tom, the Watmore and Coburn connection, it does sound like a duo, being a duo act, but they're both coming on, the scoring, Watmore assisting Coburn. They're developing quite the partnership, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Looking at that first goal, you can see that they've had enough of a partnership there that Watmore knows that Coburn's going to be there, because I think Watmore does an absolutely fantastic job running from that left hand side and getting in front of the defender as well, because he's in a position there where he's either going to force a mistake from the defender and hopefully win a penalty, or he's going to be allowed to kind of carry on that run and get across in. So I thought that run to get into the box was fantastic to start with, and then just the obviously I don't want to go over the top on the finish because it just kind of seemed very simple that he Coburn redirected it in off what looked like his thigh or something. But let's face it, we've had enough strikers that would have blazed it over from there. Looking at you, Ashley Fletcher. So you got to credit Coburn for that, really. And then the second one, obviously, Watmore's absolute super sub, just to get that goal, and what a finish it was.
Yeah, it was a lovely finish and a lovely way to round off a really good result yesterday, and obviously putting Boro back in the playoff places too. And obviously the championship was just hectic yesterday, results going our way. But we had a debate yesterday in our Telegram chat, or a question put to the group. It was from Tom. Tom Muldowney put it in, and he was saying,
Are you sure it was Tom Muldowney this time?
It was Tom Muldowney this week. I did get the two Tom M's mixed up, which is it's an easy mistake, when you're both called Tom M. It's a hard thing, Do better, just do better, Johnny. Do better. But it was Chabal Spera, and it was the case of, could he find himself as a fifth choice striker now, with the form of Watmore and Coburn? So, Dana, do you think Spera could unfortunately find himself out in the cold?
Potentially. I mean, I'm wondering if it's a similar situation to when Stuart Downing had that clause in his contract or something like that entitled him to a pay rise, or that whole story. I wonder if that's the case with Spera, and maybe Boro trying not to activate the permanent deal, because I'm just not so sure that Wilder necessarily fancies him. And it's a strange one with Spera, because he's gone from being the main man to being fifth choice in that game yesterday. You would have thought that Spera would have got on the pitch before probably Coburn, but he didn't. So it's an interesting one. I mean, I'm not sure his situation. Tommy obviously said something last week about personal reasons. I think Wilder said that he was also ill. I'm not really sure. He played for Slovenia, didn't he, during the international break? It's a very weird one, but to be honest, I kind of feel like he's plummeted down the pecking order rather bizarrely, but his performances just haven't really been good enough the past couple of games that he's had, to be honest. His link-up play hasn't been as good as we know it can be, and he's just not, apart from the penalty at Barnsley, maybe there's another goal I'm forgetting about, but he's from open play, he's just not really offering what you probably would want. But then people could say that Connolly isn't either, but I actually think Connolly's been improving, and Balogun has been improving as well individually. So yeah, it's a strange one with Spera, but I do think he's probably the fifth choice striker at the moment.
Yeah,
Tom, would you agree?
Yeah, I think he's there on form, to be honest. As Dana's just said there, he hasn't scored enough from open play. I can't remember kind of too many goals he scored recently, but you look at Watmore and Coburn, they both have been scoring recently. Them being third and fourth choice, they're there on merit, I think. And, Spraz probably got to wait for his chance now and take it when it does come. But at the moment, I think in terms of our pecking order from the strikers, everyone's where they are on merit. Connolly and Balogun have both been improving. I think from the Millwall game, it just seems to have clicked for them, and they seem to be getting better every game. Watmore, we all know what he's capable of, and he's probably being managed correctly. And when he's coming off the bench, he is doing really well for us. And Coburn, having come into the team, a little bit more over the last couple of months, he absolutely deserves to be in the conversation for being in our kind of like top four strikers. And there were rightly discussions about starting him. I think it was on our last pod. So yeah, I think Spara is where he is because of how he's been playing. I don't think it's necessarily down to anything else. Just he needs to wait for his chance and take it now because everyone else has had to.
Yeah, I'd agree with both of your opinions there, to be honest. And I think with Spara, like you can see he has quality. There's no doubt about it. I think his off the ball movement is probably the best we've got in terms of our forward play. But in terms of like getting chances away and his scoring ability, I think his last goal was at Barnsley, but it was penalty. I think I'm trying to think of open play when he last scored, and
I'm sure it was Coventry.
Coventry.
I'm just checking it now. Yeah, it was Coventry, the 29th of December. Not December, January. Wrong month.
Yeah. Day before my birthday. So that was a nice birthday present from Spara, wasn't it? But it's yeah, it's difficult. I think for Spara at the moment, he's not. I agree with you, Dan. I don't think he's been as effective as he has been when we seen at the start of the season, and at the moment, I think he pretty much deserves to be kind of where he's at. But football can change. He can definitely be that. He could be that second striker in a week's time, and we say, "Oh yeah, I remember when Spara was fifth choice for a week." So
Yeah.
it's interesting, and I think we should probably not be grateful, but also like enjoy the fact that we've got options down up front, and we've also got competition for places. And then it's nice to see Coburn come on and score. It's nice to see Watmore come off the bench and be really effective in games. I think that's where he should stay for now as well, because he's just been more and more effective as the game the game goes on, and his management is quite good for that. I think with Josh Coburn as well, I know he scores goals, and everyone wants to see him more and more, but just manage him effectively in his minutes. He's still such a young lad, and we have this tradition as Boro fans and of trying to ruin young academy players as soon as they come into the team. So just manage him effectively, let him score more goals, and we'll see him maybe next season, or he might go out on loan and have more minutes. But let's move into the praise and place then, because the praise and place is the place. We like to give praise to anyone in the club. It's good, isn't it? That is such a tongue twister to say.
Love that.
Who gets your nomination this week? It could be anyone. It could be the fans. It could be the management team. It could be a mascot. It could be absolutely anyone. Who are you going to go for? Dana, do you want to go first?
You know what? I'm going to go for the fans. And I wanted to mention that I probably should have mentioned this after the Chelsea game, but specifically Red Faction, because they were there yesterday at Peterborough with the drum. And I remember Red Faction being probably a cluster of no more than 10 people in block 53 in the southeast corner, sorry. And I remember they had to prove themselves that they weren't hooligans, they were genuine supporters. They got sent a letter by the club telling them to keep the noise down, I remember, which was just, bizarre. And over the years, I think they've definitely grown into something very, very special. I mean, the Chelsea game was unbelievable. The demand to go in the South Stand is justified because they're making one hell of a racket. Not only at the Riverside, but now away from home. And it's brilliant to see them travelling. I remember being at Doncaster away in maybe 2014, the worst game I've ever seen, the 0-0. And I believe they were there. Yeah, it's brilliant. I think they've been brilliant. The Boro fans this season have been brilliant. To see 3,700 of them, it was a sea of red. I love this time of year where the climate changes a little bit. I know I think we had rain, we had sleet, we had sunshine at Peterborough yesterday, but it was when the sun was out, you could see those red shirts, and that is some sight. So yeah, we'll say the Boro fans and specifically Red Faction, because the work that they do is absolutely brilliant.
Okay, gonna go for the fans then. And Tom, what are you gonna go for?
Well, I had a couple, but I will give a shout out to the fans first because I thought that was incredible yesterday. You've seen everything on Twitter from, say, Peterborough fans and even kind of like neutrals who overlooked it and just said how good the fans were yesterday. And absolutely got to agree with that. They were fantastic. They were the only ones you could hear during the game, so fair play to them. My couple of players for it this week are, I'll get the controversial one out of the way first because I know people probably won't like this, but Lumley.
Lumley, wow, okay.
As much as he gave everyone, moments of panic yesterday, like coming out and being sweeper keeper, he wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't being encouraged to be part of his game. If Wilder didn't like that, he wouldn't be doing that. He'd have either been dropped or been told off for that a long time ago. But he's getting better at that and making those judgments as a part of his game. Fair enough, there were a couple of times yesterday, like the slide tackle where it went straight to their player, which obviously needed to be improved. He's not a defender, so he wouldn't know to kind of like aim to put it out of touch or how to kind of angle his body there. But that obviously needs improvement, but he is getting better, and he made some very good interceptions from that yesterday. And also there was a save he made during like a goal line scramble off a corner, I think. Where I just assumed that was going in. I was looking at the back of the net, waiting to see the ball kind of pop in there, and he saved it with his legs, and we managed to get it away. So for as much as everyone was kind of like talking about how he was panicking them on Twitter yesterday, he didn't actually do a lot wrong. If you think about it, he's been encouraged to do this clearly, and everything seemed to kind of work out. So yeah, I'd go with him, but also Mark Bowler for the last couple of performances we've had from him, where he's really been off the pace since coming back from injury. He's had this 2-week international break, as have the rest of the team, but he's come back looking like a different player, and it's just added balance to the team yesterday. So I'd love to see that in the final 8 games, just him replicating that performance.
Can I just add someone to the praising place real quick?
Yes.
I want to put Lee Peltier in there because I don't know whether anybody saw the way that he walked onto the pitch after he got subbed on. We need to clip that up and put that on Twitter or something because I thought it was brilliant. It was like, I don't know how to describe it really. It was like his arms turned to, I'm going to keep up the tradition of calling things cheese string, but it was like his arms were cheese string, the way that he just walked on, like it was just weird and funny. And I think if anybody clocked that, I think Lee Peltier deserves praise for that.
I was wondering what he was doing. Like, I thought he was trying to be like Conor McGregor or something.
Yeah, it was like a very it was like a ragdoll version of Conor McGregor, wasn't it? It was bizarre, but it was brilliant.
Maybe it becomes a dance move. Like we had the Warney, we can do the Peltier. Yeah, the Warney wobble. We can have the Peltier the Peltier way. I don't know. I could see you doing that in an Empire or somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Oh, not an Empire.
Go to Creeps or something.
You know, get me an Empire again.
Yeah,
fucking hell, I'm surprised that I made it out of Empire. I got lost.
How did you get lost in Empire? And that's for another time. We can chat about that after this.
Too many vodkas.
Oh, damn. Disgusting behaviour. But we do have a couple of questions. But before we do that, my praising place is going to go to probably Johnny Howson, I think. Man of the match yesterday, thoroughly deserved. I thought McNair was good as well. But the team, I think there's an overall good team performance, and I think collectively as a club, I thought it was just well rounded. Yesterday, everything was good when we needed it to be. So I'm going to go for that. But let's move on to the questions then. It's because when you send us questions in via Twitter or via email at theborobreakdown@hotmail.com, or you can send it in our Telegram chat as well. And we've got that in the link in the description as well. And The Telegram chat's got 150 people in there, all Boro fans chatting about everything Boro, and Football Manager, and also other random
All
topics.
Boro
So
fans and then Luke.
yeah, yeah, Boro fans, and then we've got Luke, the analyst, which is all Luke, the analyst. But yeah, let's move on to the questions then, because the first one, it's from Sean. He says, Bowler or Taylor? Dana, who are you going to go for?
I think you have to go for Bowler purely because of what we've discussed, the
Yeah.
balance that it allows between attacking down the right and attacking down the left. So, I mean, Taylor's a good player in his own right. He's solid, but he probably doesn't give what Bowler can give. So, yeah, Bowler for me.
Okay. Bowler, easy answer, that easy. Next question is from Kian, and he says, has Wilder's decision to start a consistent front two in Balogun and Connolly helped our overall play in games? Feel like we've played way better recently as everyone knows their roles within the team. Dan, I'm going to stick with you. What do you think?
What was the question again? Sorry, I was prepared for that to go to Tom.
See, I fooled you all. Yeah, so as well as this decision to start a consistent front two in Balogun and Connolly helped our overall play in games.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, a lot of the time with certain dynamics, certain players as well, all they need is time. And a lot of people say they need dropping, rotating. I've probably, in fact, I definitely have been guilty of subscribing to that belief with Connolly and Balogun. I mean, it was only one podcast ago that I said I'm seeing no reason to not play Coburn and Watmore. But yeah, I think we have seen, and Thomas has said it as well, since the Millwall game, I think they have been getting better. Balogun coming off the back of what was it, 3 goals I think he scored for England under 21s in 2 games. Obviously with the goal there, it adds to that. Hitting form at a good time. Connolly, it's a bit of a shame because obviously he's not really getting in the goals as much, but he's offering something. I think he's a bit of a conundrum because I think Tom Muldowney in the Telegram chat said it very well about Connolly, that he'll do something good and then something very bad soon after. And he's a bit of a conundrum, but I do think that he'll start to get the goals soon. Sometimes players just need time, and that's it. And I think we're seeing that. Wilder obviously sees fit to keep playing these two. They're his signings, and it is working. I quite like the dynamic of the strikers, both Connolly and Balogun and Watmore and Coburn at the moment. I think they're being managed quite well.
Okay, then the next question is from Alex, and the reason why I stuck with you there, Dana, is because I want to ask Tom this question. Because since you just put him in the present place, Tom, how much longer? It's from Alex. He said, "How much longer do we persist with Lumley? The Lumley blooper reel got some serious footage yesterday, and to be fair, there was a lot of moments yesterday where I thought I was going to actually have a heart attack with Joel Lumley's performance yesterday. But fans, we do get this question quite frequently, but people are wondering why we should persist with Lumley. So how long should we wait for?
I'm not sure I agree with the blooper reel thing though. Like, yes, he was giving everyone reason to panic yesterday, but also he was clearing it most of the time, or doing what he actually came out to do. There was one point where I think he was actually quite clever in what he did, where it was a difficult ball to deal with, just over Dykesdale, I think it was. I can't remember who he was battling with, but Lumley had followed out to the edge of the box, got his knee on it, turned round and jumped and got the ball, and it looked like something out of FIFA, like something one of your keepers are doing FIFA or something.
A glitch.
Yeah, like he's probably been quite clever there, getting the touch on it with his knee and then turning around to make the catch. But in terms of how much longer do we have Lumley as number one for? I think it's the rest of the season. Like I've said before, I don't think there's anyone else who's better than him at the moment. I know other people might disagree, but I wouldn't feel as comfortable with Daniels in goals as I do with Lumley. And I mean that's not me saying I'm feeling 100% comfortable with Lumley, because yes, he's scaring me as well when he comes out for these things. But it's clearly something that Wilder wants his keepers to do.
Yeah.
It's not something that Lumley has done previously, and he's having to learn this new part of his game, which he is doing. And then there's always like the calls, like, why did we recall Sol Bryn? Can we not put him in goal? He's untested at this level, and it would be a serious gamble for the next 8 games to put Sol Bryn in goal. I would be surprised if we didn't get a keeper this summer, and I do expect the new keeper to be competing with Lumley for the number 1 shirt next season. I do think Lumley will still be here, but I think everyone just needs to just calm down a little bit with Lumley, really, because as I say, he's learning a new part of his game here. It's not him coming out to the halfway line to try and clear things is clearly not a Lumley thing. That is a tactical thing.
He's just so unorthodox in what he does. I mean, what you said there, the FIFA goalkeeper glitch moment, it's moments like that. He's so unorthodox in those moments that he needs to be confident and assured and composed that I don't think it really allows much trust in him. And there was that one clanger really where he palmed it straight back into Ricky J. Jones' FIFA career mode gem to keep up the FIFA there. But he's just so unorthodox, and I think that's why a lot of fans don't really have the trust in him. But I do agree.
I will walk back what I said a little bit about the blooper reel, by the way, because what you've just said there, I couldn't understand that either. That is probably the one thing where I will say, right, he was in the wrong for that yesterday, because I think it probably would have been better to let that go for a corner from what he actually ended up doing. But I just don't know what was going through his head for that part. But as I say, for most of it, he was doing his job.
It's just a bit of panic in that moment, isn't it? And I think we've seen that from Lumley before. So I think in terms of, he's obviously learning a new role. I'm hoping that the composure will follow suit very soon, because, you do see those heart-in-mouth moments, don't you? They're all too familiar with Lumley, unfortunately.
Yeah. Luckily, the ball was out when he decided to do that. But it's I agree with you, Paul. I think that's like kind of the one massive mistake that he made, and obviously there's always going to be. I think with the goalkeeper position, it's always such a highlighted position. There's a lot of eyes on it, and everyone could save a certain shot. Doesn't matter who you are. You could have an 80-year-old bloke saying, "Oh yeah, I'd have saved that back in the day." So you just don't know, do you? But I think with Lumley, you stick with him at the end of the season. We'll probably bring someone else in, but also let him compete for the number 1 shirt next season. Like you said, Tommy's still learning a new part of the game. Sweeper keeper itself was developed by more like Neuer, but like a lot of teams are starting to try and play that system now, and it's a new part of the game. They're going to have certain strengths, and you'll probably see this develop a lot more in probably the next few years. But I think you've got to stick with him at the end of the season, then do what you need to do.
Will add in as well, he's still relatively young in goalkeeping terms. Like, in terms of coming into his prime, he's nowhere near that yet. He's still got this ability to learn a new role, and he is still learning kind of like a lot of other parts of the game as well. People would think because he's been brought in as our number 1 keeper, he's the finished article. I don't think he's close to that. It's not like we brought in 35-year-old Shea Given, or even Dimmy, who hadn't played at our level before we signed him, but he had the age and experience to the mental side of the game was absolutely there for him. Lumley, I don't think is close to being the finished article yet.
Yeah. I think he just needs probably a couple more years of development in that system. But like you were saying, Tommy, he hasn't hit the prime of his career, but it's football. Everyone thinks that they can do better, or someone could come back and do a better job, or whatever. So it's one of those things, isn't it? But let's look ahead then to Fulham, because there's not a team in the Championship that's doing better than them this season. And Boro welcome at the Riverside on Wednesday night. And guys, how are we feeling about this game? Because it's going to be it could be a really, really tough test for us. What do you think, Dana?
Yeah, it will be. I mean, talk about a contrast. You've got Peterborough, the bottom side in the division, and then Fulham, the top side in the division. It's, they cruising to the Premier League with a cigar in their mouths, really. The way that they're playing, the amount of goals that they're scoring, it's unbelievable. And this is going to be a big test for Boro. Obviously, in front of our home crowd, we still got that winning league record. I know it was Chelsea obviously beat us, so in all competitions we've lost that, but we've still got a fantastic home record in the Championship, and I think it's going to be a tough test for Fulham. Definitely. I mean, everyone's probably going to say it's a tough test for us, but it's going to be a tough test for Fulham as well. And I'm looking forward to the game. I think it'll be really competitive.
Tom, how are you feeling about it as well?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think playing at home in this league, there's not really another team that I favour us playing. I think this is going to be a good test for us, and kind of based on what we've done recently with some of the teams we have beat at home, making Spurs look ordinary in the FA Cup and stuff like that. I think we've got a good chance, but I can just see this being one of those games that we've had recently where it is kind of very close. Something like Swansea, Bournemouth, Coventry, Luton. I think it's going to be a very tough game, but I do think that we can win it.
Yeah, why not? Why not? The Championship is very unpredictable. Huddersfield went to Craven Cottage and beat them. They are beatable sides, but
West Brom beat them.
West Brom. I mean, if West Brom can beat them under Steve Bruce, anyone can beat them. To be honest. But Dana, how does Marco Silva set this Fulham side up, and how have they been so successful this season?
I thought you were going to say sexy then.
Successful.
Well, they set up in a 4-2-3-1. They're a very attacking team, and I know that's a very general statement, but if you look at shots on target per game, they're top for that in the division. They're top for big chances created. They're second for average possession. Obviously, Swansea are top in that. They're top for goals per match. They're the best for goals conceded. They've been awarded the most penalties this season, funnily enough, tied with us. So I wonder if anyone will get a penalty on Wednesday night. And I mean, if it is, I hope it's us. But to be honest, I can kind of see it being Fulham. But yeah, they're an unbelievable side. They've scored 92 goals this season, which is absolutely crazy. And I mean, the game against them, the first game of the season at Craven Cottage, it was obviously, I don't think we can take too much out of Boro's performance because we had Matt Crooks playing as almost a second striker in that match. But I think Fabio Carvalho is probably the one, obviously alongside all the others, Mitrovic being probably the main man, but Fabio Carvalho in particular caused so many problems at Craven Cottage. And Howson in particular was struggling up against him. I'm not expecting Howson to struggle as much as he did that afternoon. Although it was kind of low key the way that he struggled against Fabio Carvalho. It wasn't picked out so much after that match, but it's the movement of the ball. I remember they were playing 1-2s in behind us really. Whenever they had the ball, I think it was Onama in midfield. The number 8 was obviously had the ball in his possession, basically attracting a Boro player towards him, and then as soon as that press was triggered, they would just set off. So it was a really difficult. Obviously, we managed to get a point, which is a really impressive point, even still. So yeah, it's obviously going to be a really difficult affair. The movement off the ball, the fullbacks get really high up the pitch. I think Boro are going to have to be on it individually and collectively all throughout the match, because as soon as we maybe show a little bit of vulnerability or switch off, they will punish us.
And just moving on to that as well, Tom, a lot of positive statistics from Dana there on like the goals scored of like 92 goals this season. What's their form looking like? Because they have had a couple of defeats recently.
Yeah, so it was actually before the international break. They seemed to be, I don't want to say dropping off or anything because they clearly weren't, but they had a couple of questionable results, and it did seem like they were maybe having the same problem as us and run out of steam a bit. So in the last 5 games, they beat Blackburn 2-0 at home, battered Swansea 5-0 away, then went away to Barnsley and drew 1-1 and lost 1-0 away to West Brom. Had the international break, came back yesterday and beat QPR 2-0 away. So it does seem like the international break's probably done them the world of good, as well as us, because they did look like they were running out of steam just a little bit beforehand.
And obviously, Championship news as well. There was reports last night that Mark Warburton could potentially be sacked as QPR manager as well after a bad run of form. But we'll stick with Fulham because Mitrovic, Tom, Dana said they've scored 92 goals this season. 37 of them have came from Mitrovic. 40% of their goals this season, which is a fantastic achievement. And he's nowhere near George Campbell, but he's still very, very good so far. But how do Boro mitigate the risk of Mitrovic on Wednesday night?
Dale Fry. I think that's this. I think he's shown this season when he's had to go up against strong attackers, with probably the exception of Lukaku. He's done a great job against most of them, and I think aerially, if he's going up against Mitrovic, he can go toe to toe with him and win. I think Mitrovic in the past he's shown to have a bit of a temper, so maybe maybe he might get a little bit wound up if he's continually losing out to Fry and maybe get him sent off as well. But I think Fry's going to be the key to it. But I'm also interested to kind of see how we do as a back three, just stopping the chances to him. Because I think aerially it shouldn't be a problem if they're trying to play on the ground and through us. They've got quality in those three positions behind Mitrovic as well. So as Dana said, everyone has to be on point, collectively and individually to cut that out as well.
I will say maybe a point of vulnerability, what we saw against Peterborough in the first half anyway, they were putting balls down the middle over the top and it seemed to cause us a few problems. So that maybe when you get it in a position where Lumley has to come out and play that sweeper keeper role, there's sometimes a little bit of miscommunication there. We've seen that. So there's potentially something that we really need to stitch up if we are to get something from this game against Fulham.
So how do you think we'll do then in terms of predictions, Dana? Do you think we'll maybe get something?
Oh, you know what? I think we will, but I don't think we'll win. I think we'll get a draw from the game. I'm going to go with 1-1. And I'll take that, to be fair.
Yeah, okay. 1-1. It is Boro's average scoreline in the Championship since we've been there from 2009. So there you go. That's a lovely little stat for you there. Tom, what are you going to go for?
1-0. As I said earlier, I think it's going to be one of those games like Swansea, Luton, Bournemouth, Coventry, where it is very close. I don't think, as in a couple of those games, we'll go on to get a second. I think it's going to be a very, very close match, and I think we'll just edge it.
Okay, then I'm going to go with 1-1 as well, Dana. I think it's going to be a difficult evening, but I think we can still get something from the game as well. And I'm also working off the law of averages there based on the average goals for and goal against. But let's look further ahead then now to Saturday, where we play our second home game in as many days against Shota Alva Ladsey's Hull City. God, that's such
Did well there.
I did well there, didn't I? Yeah, it took me 2 goals, but I got there. So to get a whole perspective, we speak to Ant from the Hull and Back podcast to give us some insight.
Hi guys, Ant from the Hull and Back podcast here. Thanks for having me on. A quick summary of our season. Eventful, I would probably say. Obviously went up as League One champions last season. Grant McCann in charge, the Alams as the owners. Not really a forward-thinking mentality at the club, we were kind of just treading water. If anything, we were going. The Lambs were selling our assets. Relationships with the fans have broken down. The club just felt toxic. There were divisions amongst the fan base. The players were maybe feeling that tension a little bit at home games. We've had a few years of just sort of receding from the old Premier League days. Trying to recover, selling assets, replacing them with freebies, loanies. So when this season started and we found out we had a transfer embargo for a loan from the EFL. We knew it was going to be a long, hard season, and staying up was always going to be the aim. Obviously, we're doing that right now, so, any City fan would have snapped your hand off at the beginning of the season for that. I know points deductions have had a big say in that, probably done us a bit of a favour. Since Shotta's taken over, though, optimism's reached the club again. New ownership, new manager, new direction. I know we haven't kind of seen the attacking football we've been promised on Shotta yet, but, he's kind of got his hands tied in the fact that we're still essentially the same side as what Grant McCann had previously. He didn't have long in the transfer market to make any changes, but mentality at the club's changed, definitely. It feels a lot better. Even though we're losing games, it's not as toxic anymore. We're just kind of looking forward to next season. We kind of take the end of the season now, to be fair. We're just limping over the line. But we started quite poorly under McCann. We had a really good start on the opening day, but then it just kind of went back to Grant McCann's old ways in the Championship, and we were losing every week, couldn't score goals. And then he finally switched to the formation that we all wanted to, with the 3 at the back. I think it was the win against Middlesbrough was the first time we tried it. This season we won 2-0. The fans have been crying out for this system since the beginning. It suits our players more. We look more threatening on the attack. We look more solid at the back. And then Shota came in. I mean, the Grant McCann sacking, to be fair, looked a bit harsh at the time because obviously results had turned around, but it's worth noting that the new owner said that the decision to sack McCann had been made months ago. It was nothing to do with his current reign of form. He just didn't think McCann was the guy to take him forward, which probably was true. His record at Championship was poor, but Shota's come in and kind of tried to adapt his own formation, but noticed that it doesn't work with the set of players we've got. So we've gone back to the 3 at the back, and we look a lot more solid. Our Achilles heel is we don't really score our chances, and we really need to. But other than that, we've only got 2 or 3 players really that can win us the game. Keane Lewis-Poor, obviously, they're phenomenal this season. England under 21 international now. George Honeyman runs the game for us. Richie Smallwood's crucial to, protecting the back 4. So if you nullify those threats, we tend to just, not really be in the game. So exploiting the space behind our wing backs is probably the best way for Middlesbrough to win. We've got Brandon Fleming and Ryan Longman like to go forwards. We leave a lot of space in behind. We've got very young, experienced back 3, so maybe exploit that naivety at the back. Maybe, a few mistakes this season have cost us games. I would probably have to put my money on a 1-1 draw, because we are quite decent away. It's certainly a lot better away than we are at home this season. I think we're a few games unbeaten away now, so yeah, I would like to see us take at least a point.
Okay, then. So, not as optimistic as I thought Ant was going to be. I thought they may have potentially got a win, or he's predicting a win at the Riverside on Saturday. But how are we feeling about the game, guys? What are your predictions for it? Do you think Boro get all 3 points? Tom, do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, I think we can. I'm really eager for us to avenge that loss earlier in the season, because obviously I didn't manage to watch that game. I was away that weekend, but I remember just checking the updates on my phone, thinking, right, this is only going to go one way. We'll get a goal eventually, and then checked it again 20 minutes later, and we were 2-0 down. Awful, but and then watching the highlights after that was worse. But I think we're in a better place now than we were earlier this season, especially at home, and I see us winning that 2-0.
Okay, so convincing win for Tom. And then Dana, what are you thinking?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, because Boro are one of a few teams in the EFL and in the Premier League, well, the whole sort of football league, I suppose, that haven't had the double done on us. And it's the Hull game and the Preston game that could potentially change that. So, this one's going to be interesting, I think. I'm going to go with 2-0. I'm going to be confident. 2-0.
Okay, let's do 3-2s then, because I'm going to predict 2-0 as well. I think if we do get 4 points from these next 2 games, I think it's a really, really good start to the running. And I think we can really build on it in the last few games as well. But guys, that's it. Thank you very much for coming on, as always. And thank you very much for the listeners, for listening as well. If you want to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we're on over 400 reviews now, and we really do appreciate it. We're also fundraising for the Morton Neuron Disease Association as well. And that link's in the bio as well. So anything that you donate really does help us raise money for a wonderful charity and helps with progress of finding a cure. But that's it. The games are coming thick and fast. Fasten your seatbelts, folks. The Wilder train is full steam ahead. This is the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was like a Boro Matchday chatter in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.